A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, Jews demand signs, and Greeks look for wisdom. But we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are called, Jews and Greeks alike, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God stronger than human strength. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
You and I, we are fools. And I mean that. I'll say it again. You and I are foolish. All of us here gathered in this chapel. Why, you may ask? Consider this. We exist here on this planet, Earth, part of a vast solar system. It's about 7.5 billion kilometers in diameter. And that solar system exists as part of the Milky Way galaxy, which is about 1.5 million light years across. The closest galaxy to ours is the Andromeda galaxy. It's estimated to be about 2.5 million light years away. And when the Hubble Space Telescope was launched a few decades ago, scientists were able to use that data to estimate that there were nearly 200 billion galaxies in the universe. But in 2016, NASA discovered that, in fact, that data was incorrect, and they revised that figure. They now estimate that that figure is about 10 times too low. The universe, brothers and sisters, is incredibly large. So large that we don't even have categories to describe its vastness. It just sort of is beyond comprehension for us. And in light of all of this, someone might present this data to us and say, you are a fool for believing the message of the gospel. And indeed, our message does seem pretty foolish in light of all this data, because of all the vastness that is creation, it's clear that human beings are pretty small. And yet we Christians claim that the one who created all of this, God, cares for Don, and for DePorres, and for Brian, and for Darla, and for Isaac, for all of you and for me. It's pretty clear how someone could conclude that we are fools. And the peoples of the ancient world probably thought a very similar thing about Christians. When they heard the message of the gospel, we heard about this in 1 Corinthians in this reading, that Jews demand signs and Greeks look for wisdom. And those were some of the first recipients of the message of the gospel, and they clearly felt that Christians are off their rockers. Especially since Christianity didn't conform in any possible way, any thinkable way, to the many ancient conceptions about who God is. Are we fools? In a way, yes. But in a way, no. Because there's more data for us to consider. When we look at the vastness of the universe and we see how amazing this creation is, God's revelation, the scriptures, tell us that this same God who created all of this also chooses to create human beings in His own image and in His likeness. He endows us with reason, free will, a capacity to love. And even when we turn away from this God because of sin, God does not abandon us. No, instead He chooses to become one like us in all things but sin. And the Gospel even tells us, Jesus says, even all of the hairs on your head are counted. That's how much your Heavenly Father knows each and every one of you. In the midst of what seems to be an incredibly foolish message, we Christians recognize how wise it actually is. Sure, in creation we see God's immense power. In the Gospels we see the immense wisdom, a wisdom that surpasses all conventional human wisdom. And during this Lenten season, we prepare ourselves to journey with this God who chose to become man as He turns toward Jerusalem to be handed over to death. And without knowing this additional information, this additional data, this good news, without considering what God has done for us and continues to do for us, then certainly we do look pretty foolish. St. Thomas puts it this way: unbelievers are in ignorance of things that are of faith, for neither do they see or know them in themselves, nor do they know them to be credible. The faithful, on the other hand, know them, not as by demonstration, but by the light of faith, which makes them see that they ought to believe them. Another way you could put it is the way that St. Anselm says it: credo et intelligam. I believe that I may understand. The challenge for us, brothers and sisters, is as we journey with Jesus toward the cross, it's for us to point out this great reality, this great good news that others who we walk with in the midst of this world do not know yet. And we should ask ourselves, who are those people in my life that need to hear the gospel? Friends, family, co-workers, acquaintances, those who haven't even heard this wonderful news, or who are skeptical about it, or who are even indifferent about it. Am I willing to really talk with them, to walk with them, to accompany them, to listen to what their concerns are, to witness to them to the inestimable value of faith in Jesus Christ? Yes, we are foolish. But as St. Paul says in this reading, the foolishness of God, it's wiser than any human wisdom. And the weakness of God is stronger than any human strength. Our task, then, is to bring others into this great paradox, that they may be fools along with us.